Hello guys, welcome back to another lecture in this course. In this video, we shall be looking into for and while loop in Python for machine learning and artificial intelligence. In machine learning, loops are used to iterate over dataset, trained models, and making predictions. There are two major Python loops, which is for and while loop. So, iteration repeats the execution of a sequence of code. Iteration forms the basis of algorithm construction. Let us take a look into it practically on how we iterate over elements or over a sequence of elements. Let us start by iterating a sequence of lists. So let's say iteration of list. So we can iterate a sequence of list. For example, let us create a variable for the list. Let us call it sequence is equals to, then a list sequence can be a list of 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a sequence of number. To iterate, I said we use two major loops, which are for and while. So we are going to use the for loop. So for items in sequence, which is the name of our list. In sequence, print item. So we are printing our items. Let us run our code. This is what we call iterating or looping through. So the main purpose of looping is to, instead of doing print 1, print 2, instead of doing this, we just iterate over a list, over a sequence of lists this way. So this is much convenient, and this is a good way of coding using loops. It is a very good way of coding. We can also iterate over a range of numbers. For example, we can say for numbers in range 1 to 20. Print numbers. So we can iterate these numbers. Okay, numbers here. So as you can see here, instead of printing all these, we can just iterate over by specifying the range between 1 and 20, from 1 up to 20 there. And also we have a while loop statement or a while loop. And while loop usually used to repeat a code block as long as the condition is met. For example, to use while loop, let us say counter is equals to 1. So to use while loop, let us say while counter, as long as this condition is met, the loop will continue. While counter is less or equal to 10, then print counter. As long as counter is still less than 10, the loop will continue looping through this element. So let's say print, let's say counter, the counter has to add 1. Let's say plus equal 1. Let us run our code, and the counter is going to count 1, then it loop through, it add 1, 2, it add 1, it add 1, it add 1 until it meets this condition. That is while loop. And also we can make users enter into a loop until correctly guess the magic number of value to stop the loop. Let us create a short program in which a user can loop through until they guess a certain number that we want them to guess. So let us call this loop is equals to false. So we're going to use this boolean value. Loop is equals to false. So while not loop, if this condition is not met, while not loop, user input is equals to, we need the user to enter input. So let us make them enter, we need them to enter integers. Let's say int, we need them to enter in integers input. So if user input, let's say is equal to 2023, then our loop now is equals to true. Our loop is equals to true. Else, the user will continue in the loop, will not stop. Print user input. We are printing this user input so that the user will remain in the loop until they got this number, this magic number. So let us run this. If the user put 1, the loop will continue. This loop will continue for years until they put this number. Okay, the user will continue looping, or else the user can put a string, and if they put a string, they'll get an error, as you can see here. So the bottom line here is that in machine learning, loops are used to repeat or iterate over dataset parameters to find best models and predictions to make a good decision. I think this is all for this lesson. Thank you for watching. See you on the next lesson. Bye bye.